I got the carcasses done, in place, installed. They're level. Everything looks really good from this point, as far as I can tell. Again, this is my first time ever building real cabinets. Made some, shop cabinets out of scrap. Didn't really take my time on them. I'm taking my time on these, making sure everything's perfectly square. I think the most I'm out of square right now is maybe a 32nd or a 16th, which when working should be fine. Next, I want to make the top. I'm going to use some dimensional high quality pine. I spent more money on this pine because it is going to be the top, and I want to do as little milling as possible. So I'm just going to simply cut these a little longer than the length I need. I'm going to join them up, take my time calling them, making sure they're as smooth as possible or flush as possible, so I don't have to, do any planing or anything like that. And then cut them to length once they're there. I am, however, going to put some T-track. I bought some of this cool blue T-track, and of course I'll link everything in there, but my plan is on this one and that one, I am going to run this T-track somewhere along it strategically. That way I can use these cool clamps, and I've got some other T-track knobs and stuff so I can make stuff for stop blocks for when I'm cutting on my miter saw. I'm going to have this T-track on there, and I'll be able to just clamp whatever I want down using this. That's the plan anyways. I marked my boards to their rough size, then took them over to my table saw and I cut them down to the rough dimension. After I joint these, I will do the final dimension later. I don't have a joiner, so I took my time picking out my boards, made sure they were as straight as possible, and I just simply ran them through my table saw right on the edge and just shaved off the edge until I had a nice flat surface. I jointed them the best I could on my table saw. However, some of the boards are still, a little wonky. I'm going to just try to glue it up using a ton of cauls and cross my fingers. As long as the boards aren't raised more than sanding, this thing doesn't have to be absolutely perfectly flat, but I really can't afford to take any of my 3/4 inch thickness away, or as little as possible. I want to put those rails in here. I'm trying to decide if I should put the groove in now and then glue it up. That might be easier than trying to run this through my table saw later. I might do that. Yeah, I decided to go ahead and put the grooves in before I glue these boards up. So I went ahead and set up my dado stack to the thickness that I was going to need. Did some practice runs, still kind of loose. So I went back to it and kept on going until I got the width right and the depth. I wanted to make sure the track was below the surface of the board. And when I got all that right, I went ahead and decided where I was going to put these grooves and on which boards. After getting all my grooves in place, it was time to glue this up. I used Titebond too. Before I did this, I did make sure that I had everything together, all my clamps, all my cauls, everything laid out to try to make this as smooth as possible. Got low on cauls, so ended up having to use my 6-foot level. Next morning, time to see how this thing actually turned out. Next morning, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous. There are some spots not perfectly level that I will hit with a sander. I'm not too worried about this thing being dead nuts flat. It's mainly going to be a working surface and a surface to set boards cut with my miter saw. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I didn't want it to be too warped. That was loud. All right. Wow. That thing's straight as a board. Gotta get all this glue off. But hey, I think we're gonna be all right. I wouldn't recommend scraping this on your top side because it tends to pull up wood. This is the bottom side and I'm just removing the glue. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this side, so I don't really care. Fresh, you wearing that? The beauty of using boiled linseed oil or something else on your working surface is that whenever you have glue, it just pops right off. And this thing, I haven't redone it or refinished it in probably almost a year. I was really pleasantly surprised with how well the top turned out. There were some high spots, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't take care of with a sander. So I started by using my belt sander at 80 grit just to kind of start getting it down there and get it all smooth. Then from there, I switched to my orbital sander and went to 120 grit, and I think that's the highest I went on this. I don't think I went to 200 or anything higher. I think now y'all know it's kind of my MO, but I went ahead and straightened up the ends with my circular saw and using a straight edge. Track saw would be nice right now. For the edges, I used a 1/4 inch round over bit, just to give it a nice round over. I did not do it on the backs, that would be against the wall. This is a rough fit up, not securing them yet. I'll explain why, but yeah, I'm happy with them. I think they're gonna be awesome to use, and I can't wait to use them. Okay, we are done making the tops. The tops aren't complete. I haven't attached them to the cabinets yet. I am using them as temporary storage. That is why I did the tops first, so I would have somewhere to set all this stuff instead of all over on the floor, and it's been everywhere. I've lost my mic, I don't know how many times. So anyways, that's why I did the tops first. I did make some mistakes on this, y'all. May or may not have noticed, probably not, because I didn't really show it. But you can see over there the little gap. I cut it a little short on accident, mismeasured, not thinking, and I did measure twice, but I measured the width of the cabinet and not from the wall, because I wanted it to the wall to the end, so that was just me not thinking. That's really about it. I used all those cauls and clamps as you saw in that first glue up, and I think that saved my bacon, because I don't have a joint or anything. I jointed these the best I could on my table saw, but you know how that goes. And I did end up having to joint a few boards on my joining jig just because the gap was so big, and I lost a little bit of width on doing that. Those are the few little mistakes I made. Nothing that's going to be crazy and ruin it or I got to start over, thank God. I did get my miter saw and vacuum for the dust collection that'll go in this middle cabinet. That is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to do a whole video on that alone. Unboxing it, setting it up. I'm having an outlet put down there dedicated to it, and I'm going to have one of those switches where when you turn on the miter saw, the vacuum comes on, so you don't have to open and close it. I got a lot more to do. Also got to paint these. I figured out the colors I'm going to do. I think it's going to look really sharp, but first I'm going to build everything, then we'll paint. I probably won't even show painting on here. It's painting, really. Anyways, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see you next time.